Hi guys, what is going on and welcome to Imperator Rome. So, obviously this game came out on Thursday and I was sure to get it, really pleased to get it. I was quite excited for its release. I'm a big fan of things like EU4 and Crusader Kings, so I was quite excited for the release to come out. And I've been playing it kind of quite a bit over the past couple of days, so I thought it would kind of be about time we give some of my initial impressions about the game, show you a little bit of the gameplay, tell you, kind of describe a little bit, maybe it's something you're interested in. Hopefully this video will kind of help you decide if it's a game you kind of want to get involved in, or hopefully if nothing else it'll be a vaguely entertaining video. So for the start I've been playing as Rome. I've been trying out a few different factions, but obviously Imperator Rome, you've got to play as Rome really is the first main campaign, and obviously that's what I've been doing. I think initially impressions, it's probably closest matching of the Paradox game is EU4. If you've played that, then it certainly shares quite a lot of similarities with that, obviously in a completely different period of time. While it does have quite a massive back end of characters, they don't play the same sort of key role as they do in Crusader Kings 2. It's not really built around characters, it's built around empires, of which characters play a key role. So it's more EU4 than it is Crusader Kings 2 in my opinion. So when you start off as Rome, you start off as quite a small little area here in central Italy, around Rome, VA, etc. You've still got the Samnites down to the south, the Sabines up to the north, and a handful of other tribes, which you can start to conquer pretty easily. And that was kind of perhaps my first little bit of disappointment that I encountered, was the fact that it felt quite easy to start. To go from a small place to basically I now own most of Italy was quite easy, I felt. And something that I always felt that I kind of enjoyed about EU4 was the fact that it had a pretty challenging starting environment, you know, in which you had to really micromanage, to be really careful and really optimize all your decisions and your resources to grow your sort of small little city to be able to make an efficient start in the game. Whereas I felt I could be quite reckless here with Rome starting, which I wasn't a huge fan of. But aside from that, now I'm starting to get into a larger civilization. I'm starting to enjoy it. Some of the alliances and stuff are getting pretty hard to contend with, so there are some pretty decent fights to be had. Mechanics wise, a lot of the stuff is very similar to EU4. You know, the main things to worry about are things like aggressive expansion, although I've expanded quite rapidly over quite a short period of time. It's not got that high. I've by taking a few research slots and things and focusing down, trying to get this to decay quickly, I can get the aggressive expansion to drop down fairly fast. It's less of a problem as it is in EU4. Although something that I really do like, and it's kind of interesting, is the Tyranny. The Tyranny value. So basically, if you do a tyrannical action, obviously Rome is still here as a republic. We're a republic in Rome. If I was to say, trying to find an action that they don't like, they quite like me at the moment, so they're happy for me to declare war on anyone. If we go and have a look at some of the government laws, they don't like election reform, things like that. There's too much opposition for me to even push it through. But these, for example, they don't like this. Only 57 out of the 100 senators would approve my changing of some of the integration laws. So I could force this through. I could change the integration laws, but because I'm forcing this through the Senate, I'm being tyrannical, which is obviously in classic Republican Rome. In tyranny, the fear of monarchy and dictatorship is kind of one of the such overriding factors in Roman psyche. That's kind of obviously where this tyranny value comes in, and starts to cause massive loyalty problems if you're not careful. You know, if you start to become seen as a tyrant, then civil war or certainly getting deposed is not far around the corner. And that's obviously something that leads on to something else you do have to deal with. While I said characters, it's empires in which characters play a role rather than characters leading empires, characters still play quite an important part in the game, and disloyal characters are something you do have to manage. Currently I've only got one. It's kind of handy as when character loyalties start to get quite low, they pop up here and you can kind of learn a little bit about them, what their loyalty change is per month and what's causing that. So he's getting quite a lot of loyalty drop from being a scorned family. And these are the various scorned families like the Claudii, Decii, etc. And these because these haven't been given any high offices or anything, so they're unhappy about it. We do actually have a full characters tab you can kind of venture into. But it's a little bit overwhelming, to be honest. You can filter this down and search properly, but I mean, there's a lot, isn't there? A little bit too much. And so I find it's kind of something I end up not really properly using. I mean, this is kind of a little bit better in the families because you can kind of see what's scorned and what's not, respected families, scorned families, etc. So if you wanted to be really careful, you could try and perhaps spread, because you only need 2% to be a respected family, not a scorned one. So you could sort of work to spread that around a little bit more to try and make it a little bit more balanced. And I think you would go a long way to maximising your loyalty. But that's just a level of micromanagement I'm not really prepared to get into. I'm happier just to deal with the odd disloyal character and just try and bribe them, basically, or give them a stipend or something like that to try and make them happy. I've not actually yet imprisoned anyone, but it's very tempting. So, I think we should... I've been talking a lot. So, let's try and hop into a little war. We've got these... I think this is a Greek city-state, unless they are Latin. I don't know. We're going to go to war with them anyway. Obviously, wars like EU4 need a casus belli, which currently we don't have one, and if you don't have one and you declare war, which you can do, then you'll get a stability hit, and stability is really important for both income and trying to reduce unhappiness in your population. So we're going to have to form a casus belli. You need that covert actions. You don't have to build a spy network like you do in EU4. You can just pay for it basically with oratory power, which is like one of the sort of effectively the monarch points if we're comparing it to EU4. So it's only 170. The Senate fully back the fabricating a claim on Brutia, so let's do that. And there you go, you immediately gain your claim. We just got to wait for the diplomat to get there and get back to deliver the message to laying claim to one of their provinces. Slow the time down a bit, and now we have the option to declare war against them. We can, I believe, threaten them. Where was it? No, I don't know. We can demand tribute and stuff from them. There used to be a threaten war option, I don't know where it's gone. But basically, we declare war, take Calabria. Obviously, they are allied with Hippion down here, small little Greek state, and Syracuse, obviously the famous Sicilian state over here on Sicily, along with Carthage. I feel confident enough that we can deal with this. Our infantry are pretty good now. We have a bit more men further up north if it comes to it. So let's start this war. Yes, obviously we had the backing of the Senate, so we didn't get any tyranny. You immediately get a little bit of aggressive expansion by doing this, about 1 or 0.9, something like that. Someone wants to give us some fish, I'm happy to do that. So, first thing says, we can then have a look from the combat point of view. If you've played any Paradox games, you kind of know how the combat works. Nothing drastic has changed. It's still kind of that, I guess I call it spreadsheet combat. I don't mind it, I think it's kind of interesting. But yeah, it's not like the most radical combat mechanics ever. But we can look at our army, so we've got 5 units of archers, 5 units of heavy infantry, and 5 units of light cavalry. These recruiters, principes, equites, sagittarii, etc. But the enemy, looking at them, they have 4 units of archers and 7 units of skirmishers, so a very light army, no heavy infantry. But then we get a choice in terms of tactics, of how we wish to fight, and you can research new tactics as your technology advances. And we can basically power certain units. Currently we're shock action, which gives our heavy infantry increased tactical effectiveness. It's kind of cool, seems useful. We have 5 units of heavy infantry. These are the mainstay of my army. Great. But if you look at them, damage versus archers is not that high. Damage versus light infantry plus 20. But if we go and look at our light cavalry, it shows up. We'll see our damage versus archers is 25% and 25% to light infantry. That's a lot better than our heavy infantry. So actually, if we look, we could either have envelopment or deception, which is going to boost our light cavalry effectiveness rather than just our heavy infantry, because our light cavalry are actually more effective than our heavy infantry, so by buffing them it's going to make it more effective. So there's a lot to be said for that little tactics and the refining the details, and you can actually, you know, if you're going to be getting involved in some tough wars and you can use a little bit of intelligence to get some idea of what the enemy army compositions will be like, you can actually kind of build your armies a little bit about what you're trying to counter. So anyway, let's get those guys moving over there. The enemy capital of Croton is down here. We can have a look to see if it's got a fort. There's a fortifications map mode down here. So we can see they've actually got quite a lot of forts. Got a fort over here and a fort over here. And the forts play out, you know, you have to literally besiege these to take them. Let's put this forwards. And we also have commanders. Our commander skill is 10, tells you here, and their commander skill is 8. So we've got a superior commander as well as having superior numbers. And it tells us imminent battle. Battle will break out on the 17th of June. Our side is very likely to win. That's what we want to hear. So let's get our troops moving forwards. As time progresses, obviously it's a real-time strategy. You can pause and unpause the time. It's not turn-based. And then, okay, the battle's broken out. You can see we're just clearly so superior compared to the enemy. You know, we're just absolutely slaughtering them. And you can see they're taking quite a lot more losses than us. And there we go, they were just completely driven back and absolutely annihilated. So good. And now we are basically besieging Tempsa and Croton down here. So you can see it's double besieged. We can finally learn a little bit about it. Where's our navy gone? I didn't remember to bring that down in time. We can bring these down on and help with the sieging. Because if we click on the siege overview, we kind of get a little bit of information about it. Oh, that one doesn't get a blockade advantage because it's off. But we get our commander because he's got 10 martial ability. You get +1 siege ability for every 5 commander martial ability. We get +1 siege from basically from technology. But because it's a level 1 fort, it's -1. And then over time, this bar will tick up and that will sort of acknowledge a siege phase. And as that phase ticks over, you then basically roll a dice between 1 and 12, I think it is. And depending on the results, determines how likely the siege progresses, whether you create a breach in the walls, whether defenders desert. You should get a little pop-up supplies shortage. Okay, and that causes 1 siege accumulation, so now it's only -28%. Oh, there we go, you can see the dice rolls and the chance of it happening. But because it's currently too low, then you can't actually get a surrender yet, that's why it's -28%. But as we get more accumulation, we'll take up a tick up until it's possible for the dice to roll a surrender roll, and as it gets higher and higher, it's more likely to reach 20. You know, you get the idea. It's pretty basic. So anyway, so we're bringing our fleet down. I want to get our fleet down onto this side because these guys from Croton have got a port, and because it's not blockaded, it's giving them a bit of an advantage because they can basically take resources in and out of their own fort. Let's move our other little army. They've just built, and they've got a few more units. We're trying to regather their army in Pettalia. Send in our little 6th Legion, 4th Legion, sorry. Like a battle's going to break out there. We've got an option. Gain 10 corruption and get some money, or some of our citizens go from slaves to freemen. Well, that's fine. I don't mind them doing that. So when's this battle going to break out? 25th. Couple of days. We can stop and wait there. They're going to turn up. We should easily win that. Got 5 units of heavy infantry. Obviously decimating them. You can see the casualties. We took 39 to their 1,330. They lost everyone. They just got annihilated, basically. So that was good. Nice. And we'll press our advantage. They're trying to recruit more units in this province. And let's drive them out. So how things are going not so badly over here. We're now assisting with the blockade over in this part. See, that was -1. Now it's 0 because our blockade's here. And we're starting to make progress in this part of port as well. Our army's about to turn up. Drove those guys out of the province. When they're so little low like that, they're basically, effectively, they're just surrendering. They turn, you know, a massive army turns up on the horizon. They're just not really prepared to fight, which is why they just get defeated really quickly. So, the siege of Tempsa is won, which is good. That means 2nd Legion's won that. We can push these guys on, to be honest. Onto Hippium. Yeah, we will. Obviously, that's now our fort. This guy's under siege as well. Hone Croton will come. And that's actually the capital of Butia, which is obviously the main province around here. So that should be pretty good. And then once we've taken all this, we can then see the war score down here. Currently it's +2. Once it gets a little bit higher, we can sue for peace and basically demand territory from them, money from them. They break alliances, that they give us yearly tribute, that they do all sorts of wonderful things. So we get that kind of option. There we go, we're just slaughtering these guys. They're such light infantry, they're such poor quality infantry we're coming up against. Obviously, you have things like inventions. These are kind of some of the technology things you get to pick from. What are we going to be taking? We've already got quite a bit of money, so it's not something I feel we really need to venture into too much. Army maintenance cost minus will be kind of a nice one, so let's go for that. My biggest problem I've actually ran into so far in my campaign has just been manpower. My manpower has been really quite short. I didn't really manage it very well at the beginning. I lost an awful lot of men basically just down to attrition. Some of my biggest problems. I found the supply limits on provinces were quite low. Ooh. Okay, so an interesting one. Things have just took a bit of a turn for the worse. So the Syracusans have turned up with a very large army. And now we need to think about this one a bit more. They're a very light army again, so I'm probably going to keep in the reception to boost my cavalry. But we have taken quite a bit of attrition, so given a battle, our side might lose. We have higher morale and better quality. their commander is better, and the terrain, because where the besiegers, so we're outside the fort, is to their advantage. So we'll let this one happen. I would... Very likely our side will lose. Just looks a bit... Could be a tough one. Could it be a tough one? Let's bring this army around here. Okay, so they're committed to getting in. They'll arrive. When will they arrive? They're actually going to arrive as a slightly split force, which is good for us. On the 2nd of... The 25th of January, sorry. Here we go. Into a battle. Big battle. Okay, so we have the manpower advantage. And we do basically have the true quality advantage. And we're fighting against units that we're superior against. You can see we're causing the more casualties. 503 to 600. It's a close one, but I think we're going to get it still. Yeah, we took quite a lot of casualties though here. We are going to do it. Good job. Okay, so you can sort of see then the breakdown of the units. They lost, what, 3-7, 2-7? Yeah, we definitely got the better of that. And obviously the commander of that's gaining popularity. Just something, you know, you've got to consider, though, this comes down to character management. Again, if someone who's supremely popular and then loses loyalty, that could be a problem. That's nice, we've got that. But we now don't actually have enough men. Oh, some Walton. Stragglers, but they have a small army. You can see they're just taking a lot of casualties there. Drive them all back. Okay, so you can see though the amount of casualties I'm taking is going to take a heavy toll on my manpower. I've been adjusting a lot of my laws to try and put more emphasis on manpower in recent times. You can see you've got obviously all the various law options and things that you can try and push through the Senate, some of which help manpower, so manpower recovery speed to 10%. It really is a pretty huge range of choices in this game. There's not a lot that you can't try and manipulate to your favour, and I think that's what makes it such a great game. Or sort of makes a lot of the Paradox games great, and there's no exception, is just that ability to really set your own destiny, I think, in a way that no other game gives. There's a real freedom, and you can actually play as anyone, from a tiny little Iberian city-state through to someone like Egypt, or, you know, like the Seleucids, Alexander, the end of remains of Alexander the Great's empire. There's such a huge range of replayability that just kind of makes it pretty impressive and really good fun. So I think that's something that's a real plus in this game, and the sort of wide range of different choices you have available to you does make it kind of fun and exciting. So how's our siege going? We are struggling to get the final one. The last time, Ron. One. We don't want a 1. Really, we need, what's that? That's 12, 13, 14. So we need a roll of 6 or higher, I think, to win this siege now. We'll see what we got. There we go. We obviously got a 6 or higher because we won the siege. And that was their enemy capital. So that's really good for us, because that means it's ticked the war score over to 21 now. So it's pretty heavily in our favour. We've won all the battles as well, and we know we still kind of strongly outnumber them, despite the fact there's the alliance of them. So because we now control this territory, we can try and demand this as part of the war score. So we could demand that, and you see they would still accept that. We've got quite, because of the war score, the desperation, etc. They're happy to accept that. They would welcome their annexation. Because we don't actually currently own the enemy capital of Hippion, they're still in their fort, still behind the fort, we can't actually demand that as part of the war either, so that's not something possible. You learn how much aggressive expansion you're going to get for trying to siege this territory, 1.94. But to be honest, you've probably lost that in just the time it's taken to accomplish this war. That's why I kind of feel aggressive expansion is a little bit too low, kind of at the moment. It doesn't really build up as much as I would like. And since we've got quite a bit of war score to spare, we've kind of thrashed them, and we also demand a bit of money from them, empty their treasury, and get 126 gold from them. So let's do that. And we have basically defeated Brutia entirely. It is now all Roman territory. And then you basically get an option to what you can do. I'm currently at maximum popularity, so there doesn't really seem to be anything of that. You can banish those of class and put the rest to the sword. You lose 0.5 aggressive expansion. You can imprison some of the leaders or pass judgment on the important families. And you kind of get a bit of fun. You can mess around and you move different things if you want to really sort of control how you get the outcomes of each of these things. So you can get like the Zagharid family moves to Rome, 22 members. You lose a bit of popularity, but you're gaining another family. And often they can end up with quite a lot of loyalty. You know, some of the ones you can really end up getting them, they become your sort of staunchest supporters, having just absolutely butchered most of their family, most of their friends, and taken their country. You can, be really quite brutal. Or you can have the rest crucified. The mobs of Rome love a spectacle, and you will be awarded Popularity per crucified family. Hard to resist, isn't it, really? Oh dear. Okay, so we now know we can bring our army back out from the enemy territory. Obviously it tells you have an exiled army. And you can see all this territory is now true Roman land. And that's basically, in a nutshell, kind of how it works. We basically have trade deals going on. You have lots of little things. There's lots of little things I keep finding as well. Like I discovered not that long ago that you can actually alter your ruler and give him abilities. Now before, because of the way it worked, there's obviously the regular consul elections in Rome like every 3 or 4 years. That was quite annoying. I managed to, by gaining quite a lot of tyranny, managed to force a change through in the Senate, which kind of meant that this got massively extended. So now my rulers are around for a lot longer, which is kind of easier because I can work on getting someone a lot more popular and having a lot better benefits. But you can basically give them ideas and you can spend oratory power to give them ideas. So you can see it's supposed to be part of the military group because it's supposed to be a military idea. I bucked the trend here and actually gave him a commerce bonus, which is obviously giving me a massive income boost. But I could basically pay to either have morale of armies. Some of these, I'd like these two, but we've not got the technology advance there. Trireme costs or reinforcement speed and army morale. Probably go for the morale of armies. There we go, so giving ourselves that little bit of benefit. So yes, you can do all that. Obviously, when your ruler dies or he gets elected, another one gets elected, then you lose those traits. So it's kind of a balance of, particularly if you're having those like 3 or 4 yearly consular elections, it's kind of not necessarily worth it. But once you've got them a bit more established, it's kind of good. So, in summary, is Imperator Rome worth getting? In my opinion, yes, I've really enjoyed it so far. I think things do definitely need a little bit more polishing. It doesn't feel quite as refined as, say, EU4 does, but I think you've got to remember that EU4's been out a long time, has had a lot of DLC, had a lot of patches, a lot of stuff to kind of improve it, make it flow a little bit better. The UI on EU4 kind of feels a bit crisper. I'm not a huge fan of the map. It feels, I don't know, not that clean, not that crisp. I think I can't quite put my finger on it. I'm just not a huge fan of it. I felt Rome also has a bit too of an easier start. I would kind of like to see aggressive expansion a little bit harder to deal with, maybe. But we'll see. As we start to get into more of an expanded empire, I think we're going to see more character disloyalty starting to rise up. It's going to be harder to perform actions without causing tyranny, and you have to deal with the Senate, etc. And there's probably, as we advance into a more imperial Rome, things are going to be changing quite a lot. So anyway, hopefully you've kind of enjoyed this little sort of vague overview and given my first impressions on the game. If you've been playing it at all yourself, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Are you tempted to get it, or is there something that's actually stopping you from getting it? I would love to hear in the comments. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. So yeah, thanks for watching guys, and I shall see you all on the next video.